At his rally last night in Florida, former President Trump challenged President Biden to a golf match. Biden's actually interested because in golf, the lowest number wins.
That was a joke. That had a setup line and a punch line, and it was fairly funny. Very unusual. How did that sneak in there? Must have had a guest writer or something. They have teams of 20 writers, something like that on those TV shows. Here, we just wing it. It's just off the top of our heads. That's Michael throws a joke my way sometimes. Otherwise, it's just, riffing. The Democrats provide me. I think it was a great listener in Chicago when I was there for a Politics and a Pint event, and a listener, a great listener to the radio show, said, "Who writes your jokes for you?" And I said, "Who writes my jokes for me?" And he said, "The Democrats. The Democrats write your jokes for you." So yeah, that's correct. They do. They don't mean to, but they do. That's your Democrat Party. I am telling you. So I've got a lot of news and information and media and politics stuff to get to. I haven't really hit on the Joe Biden son and George Clooney. They're angry with George Clooney, but they won't be for long because it's a circle fest, honestly. But before I plow into that, the Fox News Channel has a fun story today. Top Wall Street law firm screening job applicants for participation in anti-Israel protests. The white shoe firm Sullivan and Cromwell, very major, very significant, rich and powerful New York Wall Street law firm, scrutinizing potential hires involved in pro-Palestinian groups. They hate the Jews. And the Jews control the media and Wall Street and the weather. Don't forget about the weather. I know that because D.C. City Councilman Trayon White opened my eyes to that. The Rothschild family in particular, a prominent New York-based law firm that recruits from the nation's most prestigious law schools, including Harvard and Yale. Oh, sure, he went to Harvard. Is scrutinizing potential hires for any involvement in pro-Palestinian student groups or anti-Israel protests. From the river to the sea, death to the Jews. They should all join Hamas. I think they'll enjoy Islam. Sullivan and Cromwell, which has represented Wall Street titans, including Goldman Sachs and businesses like Amazon and Google, has hired a background check company to screen job applicants for connections to anti-Israel activism and anti-Semitism, according to a new report in the New York Times. The New York Times. Joseph Schenker, a leader at SNC at the law firm, told the outlet, the New York Times, that candidates could be disqualified from employment at the firm if they participated in demonstrations where activists used language that deemed triggering toward Jews, even if the prospect themselves did not make anti-Semitic remarks. This is a little what goes around comes around, I got to say. And Michael and I were talking about this, and Michael said correctly, they should also screen for the people that were burning police cars during the George Floyd career criminal meth head, crackhead, whatever he was fentanyl and methamphetamine. I got to narrow it down. And they should screen for the burning courthouses and gluing the doors to police stations closed and setting the police station on fire, burning police cars, injuring thousands of police, killing dozens of people, billions in property. All the George Floyd protesters should be living in cardboard boxes in California. I don't want them in Washington, D.C. I think they should live in cardboard boxes in California. But But that's me, and I think that's good news. And they really, and it shouldn't just be this law firm. I hope every company in America is saying, well, we're not going to hire these fascists, these brainwashed, indoctrinated, glassy-eyed zombies that we're cranking out of not just Ivy League schools, but universities across America because the left has sunk their teeth into them and sucked the lifeblood out of their brains. Kind of like what happened to Joe Biden. All right, now let's get to the news of the day, all the crazy news of the day, because there's a lot going on. Also, you know, the Republican National Convention is next week, and it begins Monday night, which is why NBC News and Lester Holt have coordinated with the Biden White House to do a primetime Monday night interview. They're going to air the interview pre-taped and edited, of course, at 9 p.m. Eastern as of now, but they change things a lot. Like Joe Biden's press conference tonight is no longer 5:30, too difficult. 6:30 it will be, and that could be, you know, creeping into Joe Biden's bedtime. That might not be good news for Joe Biden. He's, you know, according to what they tell us, he's better at 5:30 than he is at 6:30. Remarkable things. But I've got a great friend in Milwaukee, Don, my buddy Don in Milwaukee, lives in Milwaukee, and we went to high school together. We were friends in Santa Barbara when we were pretending to go to college. Well, I guess he was going to college. I was only pretending to go to college. But in Milwaukee, there was a police shooting, and it's a terrible thing. Somebody was killed by the police, and he's African-American, and the Democrats are still discussing whether they're going to burn the city down over that because, you know, ignore the 10,000 black homicides in the United States every year, unless it's a police officer that shoots somebody, usually with a gun in their own hand. But never mind that. All right, let's get to but keep an eye on that because there was police shooting, and the Democrats will turn it into a racial matter, and we know that they burn cities down and attack the police and all that over almost anything because they're violent and criminally insane, mentally ill. Now to Joe Biden. Speaking of Democrats and mental illness, let's go to Joe Biden. Some headlines I have for you. Former aides to Barack Obama among President Biden's loudest critics. This is from The Hill here in Washington, D.C. It is a Democrat newspaper, as is so often the case. And that's a pretty good headline. They've got the Clintonistas. I pointed out the Clintonistas from starting with George Stephanopoulos, right? And then James Carville, and it goes from there. And then they put out a poll saying Hillary Clinton would beat Donald Trump even if Joe Biden wouldn't. And if Kamala Harris wouldn't, Hillary Clinton would beat Donald Trump in the national election, the presidential election. That's the poll that probably Hillary Clinton commissioned with Russian money or something. But ex-Obama aides are among Biden's loudest post-debate Democratic critics. And isn't that fascinating? So the Democrat Party establishment, the Democrat deep state, the political deep state, and what Joe Biden called the elites when he was talking to Joe and Mika the other day. The elites have the long knives out for Joe Biden because that power is theirs and they must keep it. Now let's go to, we'll start at soundbite number one. What do you say? Nancy Pelosi, you know her? I think she's 3 years older than Joe Biden, isn't she? I think she's 84 and he's 81. And she's a lot sharper than he is. And she's vicious and nasty and greedy and selfish and power drunk. And her husband is, you know, they own vineyards and all kinds of crazy stuff. But here is Pelosi on Joe Biden. And this is kind of fun. On Joe Biden dropping out, Nancy Pelosi.
It's up to the president to decide if he is going to run.
Decide?
We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short. I want him to do whatever he decides to do. And that's the way it is. Whatever he decides, we go with.
He's decided. See, here's the thing. We were talking about this yesterday. He's said very clearly, out loud, a dozen times, I am running. I don't care what anybody says. I'm not leaving. I'm not getting out. And Nancy's saying, well, whatever decision he made, she knows what. He's already made his decision. And strangely enough, Jimmy Fallon on his TV show last night with his team of comedy writers actually made it kind of funny using clips of Pelosi and making it clear that Joe Biden has said he's not going anywhere. And Pelosi, this is one of those, it's kind of a version of damning with faint praise when a twist on that. When Pelosi says, whatever he decides, I'm with. He's already announced. He's already decided. And he's like, I'm running. I'm definitely running. I don't care what anybody says. And then Pelosi says, well, whatever he decides. And I was doing this joke yesterday. I literally was doing this joke, this very joke yesterday. And Jimmy Fallon on his TV show did it last night.
You know things are crazy when an 84-year-old Nancy Pelosi is telling an 81-year-old Joe Biden to retire. What is going on? That's right. When asked about Biden's candidacy, Nancy Pelosi said, it's up to the president to decide if he's going to run. In response to that, President Biden said, I've already decided I'm running. In response to that, Pelosi said, well, that's completely up to you. To which Biden responded, I know it is, and I'm telling you I'm running. To which Pelosi said, whatever you want, and you tell me, I will accept. To which Biden said, I told you, I'm running. To which Pelosi said, either option is okay. To which Biden said, I understand that, and I've chosen my option. To which Pelosi said, when you're ready to share that option, I'm ready to receive that shared option. To which Biden said, I've already shared it. I feel like you want me to drop out. Which Pelosi said, it's not what I want, it's what you want, and that is to drop out. To which Biden said, that's not what I said. To which Pelosi said, you sure? And finally Biden said, honestly, no, I can't remember.
So they even noticed it at the Jimmy Fallon show that Nancy Pelosi was playing this Weasley game. Well, she was on CNN. She was on Morning Joke. Oh, that was Morning Joke. I'm sorry, that was Morning Joke. But I noticed that yesterday. We noticed that we were making fun of it yesterday. That she's saying, hey, whatever you want. And it's true. That they summed it up pretty well there, I've got to say. And that's Pelosi. Now, David Axelrod, former Chicago journalist turned Democrat operative. It works both ways. Remarkable stuff. Then they go off to get rich someplace else. Talking about Pelosi's comment, because Axelrod is undermining Biden too. And Axelrod, of course, an Obama-ista.
Nancy Pelosi is a very deliberate person.
She's deliberate.
She says what she wants to say. She never says what she doesn't want to say. She said that for a reason. The president tried to close down this discussion at the beginning of the week with his letter to the House. And what she's saying delicately and respectfully is, no, really the discussion isn't over.
Delicately and respectfully, no, the discussion isn't over. That's not delicate and respectful. She just ignored the fact that Joe Biden has said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not, and she's playing this semantic game. I pointed it all out yesterday, and now they're pretending that it's a world of make-believe. They assume that everyone is an idiot, and most of their voters are, so it works out pretty well for them. People don't seem to notice. They're an amazing group of people. Their brains do not work as designed, as intended. Amazing people. And I still have the CNN and Obama speechwriter and others coming up, because Joe Biden is a toasted English muffin. He just doesn't know it yet. He's going to find out soon enough. And I keep getting people keep hitting me. That's fine on, Twitter and stuff, saying, you're wrong. Joe Biden is staying. He's going to be the guy. He's not going anywhere. We shall see who's more powerful, the Democrat Party or the President of the United States. I know the answer to that. You know that the best-selling Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier uses Oxy technology that helps to quickly destroy a whole lot of different viruses, odors, mold, and a lot more floating around in the air. thousands of 5-star reviews, glowing reviews online. You know, it works like a champ. We've got 2 of them at home ourselves. Any stinky smell will vanish after just a few seconds with the thunderstorm being on. Odors from litter boxes, trash cans, cigarette smoke, dirty diapers, which is kind of like left-wing protesters. No match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. The powerful thunderstorm sends out these O3 molecules that seek out and help destroy odors. These molecules even go behind and underneath furniture. Nothing can escape the thunderstorm. And best of all, you don't have to buy filters and replace filters over and over again. They're small, too. You can hold one in your hand. They're only this big. Saves you money, saves you hassle, no filters. And right now, you can save $200 American because you hang with me when you get an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. You get 3 units for under $200. You can put one in your basement, your teenager's room. You can give one as a gift to somebody that needs one, to put it delicately. Anywhere you like to breathe clean, fresh air. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code Chris3 to save $200. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Chris3. Yeah, so I've got lots of good stuff still coming up. The news media, the Democrats, but I repeat myself, and Joe Biden must be sacrificed to save democracy. Now, lots and lots to get to, of course. My friend Scott and I were going back and forth, and Scott said, you know, there was this George Clooney movie called Up in the Air. He's an actor, after all, and this movie, Up in the Air, he was his job was to fly from city to city and let people know at companies like CNN, you know, that 100 people are fired today, you're all being laid off. And George Clooney going from place to place, firing people in the movie Up in the Air. Maybe they should send him to the White House to talk to Joe Biden, and he could go in and tell him.
Although I wish I were here with better news, the fact is that you and I are sitting here today because this will be your last week of employment at this company.
See, this will be your last week of employment. Joe, they have George Clooney. Remarkable, the George Clooney thing. Yes, sir. Look what I've done to the clock again. I demolished the clock all over the place, don't I? The clock is not my friend because I have too much to say, and the Democrats give me too much stuff. But I've got a lot of really. You want to hear this? You want to hear this stuff? The CNN people, the Obama speechwriter, Jake Tapper, and Dana Bash, Mika Brzezinski. I have remarkable and horrifying things to share with you. Our corrupt political system, our corrupt news media, they're dating. They're dating, and it's unhealthy. All right, now let's get to what's going on out there with Joe Biden. Will Joe Biden survive until Monday when he does his Lester Holt interview and NBC airs the edited version of the Joe Biden-Lester Holt interview at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Monday night as the Republican National Convention is getting underway in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? It's the Democrat Party's counter-programming, more collusion between the Biden White House and NBC Network News, as you might expect. Will he hang on? I believe he'll hang on through the weekend. And he's supposed to hold a press conference tonight. It was going to be 5:30. Now it's 6:30 Eastern time. And then on Monday, he's supposed to, they call it a sit-down. They always call it a sit-down like it's a mafia meeting, right? And they're borrowing language from The Godfather. And Joe Biden does a sit-down with Lester Holt, and then they will edit very favorably from Joe Biden's perspective, probably sit down with White House staffers in the edit room, and then they will air the edited version of the Lester Holt interview at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Monday. So Joe's got to make it that far, in theory, at least. But who knows, really? Who can say? We used to say in the newsroom, one thing's for sure, the future remains to be seen. The future remains to be seen. Now, here is Dana Bash at CNN. Her ex-husband was an Obama administration official. It's all very cozy. Sitting down with David Axelrod, who's a former Chicago journalist who became a Democrat operative and an Obama White House official. And Dana Bash, it's a Democrat media universe, isn't it? Dana Bash with David Axelrod, and this is hardball journalism.
So the question is that I have for you is,
for you.
I'm putting myself in the position of the Biden campaign right now.
That ought to be
the
easy.
White House. And that is, you guys are so angry and you guys are so upset.
Very angry.
Are you hurting more than helping by saying so much about what you're saying publicly?
What? I'm sorry, what was your question? I'm going to put myself in the position that I'm already in, and that is the Biden campaign, the perspective of the Biden campaign. And from the perspective of the Biden campaign, which is the perspective I'm taking right now, which is really difficult for me. Are you helping more than you're hurting, or hurting more than you're helping with the Democrat Party's effort to defeat Trump, Orange Man bad, Orange Man number one, because now Joe Biden is Orange Man number two. He turned orange last week. Remarkable stuff. And that was the question. Just amazing. Also I think they were not on the set together. They were in different locations. Was Jon Favreau, not the Hollywood actor, but the other one, who's a Democrat apparatchik. He writes speeches filled with falsehoods for Democrats and makes good living doing it. And Jon Favreau was sitting there. He was on screen left, while David Axelrod was screen right, and Dana Bash was the ham in the middle of the sandwich there, the turkey in the middle of the sandwich. And Jon Favreau, during the course of this interview, he showed up with a thing or two to say, and the question was put to both of them, and here comes Jon Favreau's answer.
What's hurting Joe Biden right now is he has been unable to articulate a coherent and compelling argument against Donald Trump, who I believe represents an existential threat to our democracy.
Naturally, these are the talking points. And I honestly think the Republican Party needs to adopt they need to respond in kind, to meet fire with fire, and come up with it's a threat to our. So wait a minute. If your guy doesn't win the election, then democracy comes to a screeching halt because you lose, right? That's pretty amazing stuff. The arrogance of that position, and it should be defined by the Republican Party as the most profoundly arrogant and fraudulent talking point in the history of American politics, that if they lose this election, that democracy itself will be canceled, will go away. And as I have said, I think a couple of times over the last week or so, I think the response should be from the Republicans is that if the Democrats win, all life on Earth will cease to exist. Human life, mammal life, sea life, plant life will cease to exist because the Democrats have won the election. Jon Favreau wasn't done yet.
I still believe that Joe Biden would make what I think would be a very courageous, honorable decision to say, I want to, finish out my job as president here in the next couple of months, but I want to pass the torch to the next generation.
Pass the torch to the next generation. That's John F. Kennedy talk there. Pass the torch to a new generation, to the next gen. And there it is. They have no original thoughts whatsoever. None of them. Many of them are seemingly intelligent people, but when you're as dishonest as they are, it's a threat to our democracy because tweets. Really? Is $2.11 a gallon gasoline a threat to our democracy? Is inflation of 1.2% a threat to our democracy? Is 3% interest rates on buying new homes a threat to democracy? Peace in Europe is a threat to our democracy rather than war. Peace in the Middle East rather than war is a threat to democracy. 3 peace deals between Israel and Arab neighbors a threat to democracy. Securing our border and not waving in thousands of Venezuelan gang members as a threat to our democracy? Not having 100,000 fatal drug overdoses a year a threat to our democracy? Interesting. And no reporter anywhere has asked, well, how is the a Trump presidency? He was president for 4 years already. How is that a threat to our democracy? You guys were rioting and burning our cities from coast to coast, making mob, street political violence normal. And then January 6th, where Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed while unarmed by a racist police officer, Capitol Hill police officer Lieutenant Byrd, who the Democrats gave awards, but never mind that, for shooting an unarmed Air Force veteran for the alleged crime of trespassing. Never mind that. John Favreau of the Obama administration.
It was not surprising to any of us who were at the fundraiser. I was there. Clooney was exactly right. And every single person I talked to at the fundraiser thought the same thing, except for the people working for Joe Biden, or at least they didn't say that.
At least they didn't say that. Clooney was exactly right. Now, what George Clooney has to say about anything political, I can't understand why anyone would concern themselves with that. But okay, they're a celebrity, whatever. And turns out, surprise, surprise, John Favreau is married to his wife, and that took everyone by surprise. But they are the Clintonistas and the Obama people. They are out to get Biden because that power belongs to them, and they're afraid it might be in jeopardy. And they still need to have a gang member sleeping in your daughter's bed by the end of next year.
But I remember my wife, Emily, turned to me after the fundraiser and said, what are we going to do? And I said, well, there's a debate in a week. Either he'll do well in the debate and we'll think, well, he was just tired because he flew all the way back from Europe and that'll be that.
All the way back.
He'll be like this at the debate and then the whole country will be talking about it.
Or he'll be like this. So they all knew at the fundraiser in L.A. where they raised $30 million in an effort to, destroy the United States of America and everything that Western civilization represents and stands for. But they're still working hard there, nose to the grindstone. And you think they'd look around in California and say, I don't think we want the whole country to turn into this, do we? But they do. They're a demented bunch. They're very resentful people. And you saw Favreau saying at this Los Angeles fundraiser, the Clooney fundraiser, Clooney was exactly right. Everybody saw, and that's the one where Barack Obama had to take Joe Biden by the elbow and walk him off stage like he's grandpa and he's having a moment because he is grandpa and he doesn't know how many grandchildren he has, but he is grandpa and he doesn't acknowledge Navy Joan Roberts, who is his granddaughter, thanks to Hunter Biden, and an exotic dancer named London Roberts, who seems like a nicer person than any of the members of the Biden family. She really does in interviews and so on. Now let's go to Jake Tapper. Jake Tapper, who is a former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer. And as I go down the list, I like to just mention as we go, Jake Tapper and CNN reporter Kayla Tausch. I'm going to go with Tausch. Could be Tushy, but I think it's Tausch. Taushe. I'm going to go with Tausch. But it's Kayla Tausch and Jake Tapper, the reporter, and the White House response to George Clooney writing an op-ed in the New York Times, which they dutifully published, revealing, after keeping it a secret for weeks, and all the people at the big LA fundraiser kept it a secret for weeks, and now that George Clooney wrote in the New York Times and the New York Times published it, that Joe Biden was demented. Obviously, the wheels had come off and they were all afraid, but they didn't say anything because it's a cabal of corrupt, dishonest people. Hollywood and L.A. and Democrats. Need I say more?
In response to those comments from George Clooney, Jake, a campaign official who attended that Los Angeles fundraiser tells me that George Clooney left 3 hours before the president. So clearly, the gloves are off. Jake?
But what does that mean, that George Clooney left 3 hours? What's the point?
The point of that is to suggest that Biden's stamina is better than Clooney's, and Clooney didn't have, eyes on the entire event. That's the response to the Clooney op-ed.
Okay. And I said, oh, God, you explain it. So now it's okay. Yeah. Clooney left 3 hours early because he had to prove his stamina with a couple of Japanese twins. But that's another thing for another day. He had some place to be 3 hours early. He's Clooney. He's in demand, and he's a Democrat fundraiser. And he did the Joe Biden thing. He saw that poor, sad, pathetic Joe had to be let off stage by Obama. And it's all, then he's got somebody's yacht to be on and whatever. On Morning Joke this morning, where they have Joe and they have Mika, which is Joe Scarborough's semi-inflatable flotation device of a third wife, and not a bright woman at all. But this morning on Morning Joke, they're trying to save Biden, even though Joe Scarborough about 2 weeks ago said Joe Biden's got to go, his brain doesn't work. And then the party got to him and he flipped because, morality is not his bag, baby. But on Morning Joke this morning, who do they want to blame for George Clooney publishing an op-ed in the New York Times? None other than...
This wasn't George Clooney.
It wasn't?
What do you mean? It just wasn't. Come on.
Who do you think it was? Matt Damon?
It was not Matt Damon.
Who do you think it was?
It wasn't Julia Roberts either.
Who do you think it was? You can say the name. You won't melt. It's not Voldemort. Are you saying you think Barack Obama put him up to this?
I think that Barack Obama has a lot of influence, and I think that there's a lot there.
There's a lot there.
There's a lot there.
There is a lot there.
He's pretending that he didn't know what she was going to say. It's all theater. It's all fake. It's all contrived. And it's Obama that put Clooney up to writing the op-ed. So Clooney's being used by the Democrat machine, and he's part of the Democrat machine. It's all circle fest in a hot tub, and they're all billionaires, and they go around on 300-foot yachts. And, the Obamas like to go on Rising Sun, David Geffen's yacht. It's 450 feet, helicopter, swimming pool. These people are, they're not struggling with homeless people in their neighborhoods. Joe Scarborough.
Anytime David Axelrod attacks him, David Axelrod ensures that Joe Biden will dig himself in another day.
I mean, that's basically what Obama's
anytime the pod bros say something nasty about Joe Biden, which they have repeatedly said nasty things about Joe Biden, before the debate, after the debate, every time they do that, he digs in a little bit further.
The cackling, giggling. What did Joe Biden called them? The media elites and the elites the other day. Womp, womp, womp. Joe Biden, power, money, greed, selfishness, ego. Very much on display during the course of this process. Joe Biden will not survive this.
I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites in the party who they know so much more.
Now, my friend Marty, say you're listening, is that the passing the torch to the next generation. It's kind of ironic since they're in the way of burning so many police cars and police stations and everything else. The Democrat Party, the leftists, said, who is that next generation, by the way? Is that a gang of Jew haters like Rashida Tlaib and Cori Bush and Hakeem Jeffries and geniuses like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Honestly, is that your next generation? And they have this passing the torch. I've been talking about this for a week now. Their phrases are passing the torch. There are even signs and things. And stepping aside, not stepping down, but stepping aside. Right? That's one of their things. Also, kind of interesting, It turns out that in Chicago, top Chicago Democrat donors have canceled a DNC fundraising lunch for Joe Biden because they think he's not going to be the nominee, which is pretty funny. And speaking, that's going to be the Democrats in Chicago. The governor of the state of Illinois, who, if tradition holds, will end up in a penitentiary after he leaves the governor's mansion, from the state house to the big house, as they say in Illinois. And that's J.B. Pritzker of the billionaire Pritzker family. His grandfather started the Hyatt hotel chain. And J.B. Pritzker, who should skip a meal now and then, he was caught on a hot mic.
Also today, Governor J.B. Pritzker appears at a crime-fighting event. He's one of President Biden's strongest supporters. Listen to what a hot microphone caught him saying.
We're just going to keep fighting. I don't know what to say. I gotta do what we have to do. I don't like where we are, but
we reached out to the governor's office and shared that "I don't like where we are" clip to find out what that was all about. A spokesperson told us, quote, "Sounds like he was talking about the state of the presidential race."
Sounds that way. It does. I don't like where we are. That's WBBM, the CBS Chicago affiliate. Great stuff. We've got very little time, but let's grab Sean calling from Columbia, Maryland. Sean, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for taking my call. I'll make it real quick. First of all, who made Clooney, clowning, I think he is, the kingmaker? Second of all, this is almost like a Saturday Night Live sketch. You couldn't get it any more rich. The only thing that Biden should have said after, "I've got more stamina years." Thanks, sucker.
Yeah, honestly. And who made Clooney kingmaker? Well, according to according to Joe and Mika, it was Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the Obama people are out. You remember Barack Obama famously said of Joe Biden, never underestimate Joe Biden's ability to beep things up. He never liked him. He never respected him. They just used him as a sock puppet for these 3.5 years now. And now they've turned on him because they're snakes, and the Clintonistas, too.